Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Hi-Fi Preschool and Kids Weekly Training Podcast. My name is Kayla. I'm your host today, and I am joined with my friends Isaac and Frank, who also serve on our Hi-Fi team. Hey guys.
Hey, so glad to be here.
So excited.
And we are so excited that you all are tuning in, listeners, as we walk through what is coming up for this week for Hi-Fi Kids and Preschool. But before we jump into all the fun content, we always like to start our podcast off with a fun question, because who doesn't like fun? So our fun question for today is, what is your favorite winter activity? Now, do you like snow? Do you like doing things outside? Maybe you like doing things inside when it's winter time. Or maybe you're just cuddled up with some hot chocolate, dreaming of the sunshine and the next time you get to be at the pool. So what's that like for you guys? Frank, Isaac, are you winter people? Do you like winter activities? Are you just summer people and are just, by January, the Christmas lights are down and you're just over winter?
I am a Floridian, so winter stopped after Christmas. Like, you just stopped celebrating that you were pretending it was winter. And I still wish I could do that. Honestly, when it's like February, March, and it's still kind of winter up here in Tennessee, it's difficult for me. So I'm excited that I've gotten to spend a few weeks down here in Florida and just enjoyed the winter down here. But so winter activities, I'm not really sure if I have a quote unquote favorite winter activity. I like going out and sledding. I love that. But then I like to come in and then the snow to disappear right after that. So yes,
That's fair. That's fair. I can get that. I can get behind that. You know, Frank and Isaac, me and Frank were just in Florida. It's funny that you were talking about Florida, Isaac. We were just in Florida for a conference, and I got to tell you, Floridian friends, like, y'all have a pretty good kept secret, because January, February in Florida is like amazing. It's like fall in Nashville. So I'm here for that. Isaac or Frank, what about you? Any fun winter activities you enjoy?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Maine, and I grew up loving it. You're loving the snow. You go snowboarding, snowshoeing, being outside. But then when I realized that there were places that didn't have snow all of the time, the cold was not fun anymore. So living in Nashville now that I live, and it's kind of just only snowy for like a week, and it's just a little bit of snow, it's kind of sad because it just goes away, but it's still like dark and cold. And so I do like the summer a lot more. I think I did my time out in the snow in the north, and now I've graduated to being warm again. So
I can't imagine like Maine. I consider Tennessee the bitter north. So I don't know if I would ever survive in Maine.
Oh my goodness. Listeners, don't just block out what Isaac just said. He considers Tennessee the bitter north. We need to get him.
Oh, that's
Our
funny.
friend Crystal would be so disappointed in you right now. Or Pacific Northwestern.
I've had a lot of conversations with her about winter, and we do not see eye to eye.
Oh my goodness. Well, I will say, I feel like I'm a little different than you guys. I used to really despise winter, but it's kind of growing on me because I really enjoy no bugs. I really enjoy not sweating. I think when I was a kid, I grew up in South Mississippi. So I'm with you, Isaac. Like, I grew up when winter wasn't really a thing. Like, I'm asking for scarves for my Christmas so that I can wear them for 2 weeks, and then they never see the light of day. But I feel like as an adult, I have grown to appreciate winter a lot more. And I've also learned of the right winter gear, because you can be in cold weather and enjoy winter activities and not be freezing cold. And so I have learned with the right gear, I can really enjoy winter. As long as I am warm, I am happy to be in the cold. So fun times. Well, thank you guys for sharing about that. So today we are going to be leaning into the Bible story about Moses and the Red Sea, because we're going to be teaching kids and preschoolers that God is trustworthy, how he is trustworthy and how he is faithful, even when we have doubts, even when we have questions. And so as we're looking at this Bible story, we're going to really bring out for kids and help unpack for them what it means that God is faithful, identifying words of how do we even define faithful? How do we define trustworthy? What does it mean? And really with those middle to older kids, being able to go even a little bit deeper and talking about questions. And is it okay to ask questions? And is it okay to ask questions at church? Should we just trust everything that we hear? Or is it okay to kind of question what we're hearing and make sure that what we're learning about is really truthful and honest and grounded in God's word? So Isaac, talk to us a little bit about this particular Bible story, Moses and the Red Sea, and how is it reminding us that God is bigger than our doubts? And how is it helping us understand that God's trustworthiness isn't dependent on us, isn't dependent on who we are, but on who God is?
Yeah, now there is a reason that this story in particular has had a lot of like Hollywood versions of it, because this really is an epic story of Moses and the Israelites at the Red Sea. Because at the beginning of this story, we see that God has promised the Israelites. He's made this trustworthy covenant with them that he will bring them out of Egypt. It said that I am with you. So Moses is leading the people out of slavery, out of Egypt, and they kind of think, okay, God has kept his promise to us. But then the Pharaoh, he changes his mind and he begins to pursue the Israelites. And as soon as that happened, some of that trustworthiness in God, it starts to dissipate a little bit. We start to see that the Israelites begin to freak out because this giant army is coming after them to bring them back and pull them back into slavery. And the God who sent all of those plagues, their trustworthiness in him is shaking a little bit. So they go to Moses, and God speaks to Moses and says, hey, reach out your staff over the water and I will take care of you. But even before that, God still keeps his promise, and the Egyptians aren't able to get to the Israelites because this cloud of fire comes between them and he protects them overnight. And God keeps his promise there, protects them overnight. He keeps his promise and he gives them a way across the Red Sea by parting the waves. Like, I can't even imagine what that would have felt like, what that would have looked like. And through the entire night, it took them to cross the Red Sea through dry ground with walls of water on either side of them. And then when they get to the other side, where they can see, hey, God has kept his promise. He has released us from slavery. He has kept us safe from the Egyptians. He has given us a way across this giant body of water. He has kept his promises time and time and time again. And he has shown that he is trustworthy when he saved his people from this enemy and gave them a way to have the home that he had been promising them for years and years. So these people were able to see that God is trustworthy. And when we get to show this story to kids and to preschoolers this week, we get to tell them that, hey, there may be times where things, they seem a little out of control for us. They seem a little bit out of our control. But we can be secure knowing that God has a plan, that he is with us, and he can trust the promises that he has given us, that he will never leave us or forsake us, that he loves us, that he has our best interest in mind, and that he will take care of us at all times.
That's awesome. Thanks, Isaac. Yeah, I often wonder, because, I sometimes just think about, okay, what if I were in this situation, right? Like, these aren't just stories. These are real people. This really happened. And I just think about walking across the Red Sea and I'm halfway through, like I'm right in the middle. Am I still, I see the walls of water. Am I still trusting that God is going to hold those walls up and let me pass through? So I just, and I think about how as leaders, we get the opportunity to help kids and preschoolers walk through this journey for a season, right? While they're still in kids ministry until we pass the baton to student ministry. Like, we get to walk with them in a season in their faith journey to help them see every step all along the way, God is trustworthy. and he is faithful. And when we're in the middle, like dead center, and we can keep going one way, or we could choose to go back, we might still have doubts. We might still have worries. We might still have questions or concerns. And those are okay, because we are safe and secure in the hand of who God is. And he's big enough to part the Red Sea, and he's big enough to answer and hear our questions. And I just think that's so cool for us in this day and age with this generation to be able to get to talk about. All right. So Frank, in our themes for this month, we know we've been talking about locked in for kids, and we've been talking about A to Z, God takes care of me for preschool. So talk a little bit about how do these two themes, one for kids, one for preschool, how do they really speak to the heart of security and what we're trying to teach in this month?
Yeah, totally. And so I think with our preschool, like with A to Z, it's no matter what is happening from the beginning to end, that we can be secure in who God is, right? We can trust that God is going to be with us and he's going to keep us secure in that too. And so I love that is just a great picture of knowing that. And that's one of the first foundations it is of a preschooler, right? Learning their letters. And that's the foundation as us Christians have, is knowing who God is, having a foundation, knowing that we can trust who he is. And then I love the theme locked in. I feel like it's such a perfect visualization, especially about trusting in God. It reminds me of the bungee jumpers that you see where they have the lock, they put their carabiners on, and then they're standing near the edge and they're about to jump over, and you have this anticipation of worry and stress, and they jump off, and then you're like, oh, I'm done, right? But they don't, they get caught, right? That thing that they had full trust in, they fell into it and it kept them safe. And trusting in God is way bigger than any carabiner could ever do for us, right? We can trust in who God is, that we can trust that what he did in the past and what he's done for us in the past. We also can trust that he is good, and he is going to be that security in anything that we need him for. So I love that these truths, these themes really just help show kids and preschoolers really what it means to have security in God.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so listeners, y'all know, if you've been around the podcast for more than 2 seconds, that we often talk about a book called Flip the Script, because it's kind of that foundational book that really Hi-Fi was born out of. And it's a book that we often go back to, even as we're preparing and thinking about, far off in the future of future years of Hi-Fi and what that looks like, of what are the truths that we're teaching, making sure that we are anchored to the truths of Scripture, and making sure that we are anchored to the foundation of where we started and that we're not drifting. So we often talk about that. And so one of the things that Flip the Script says about this particular truth is God is steadfast and trustworthy, even in danger. And that is so powerful to me, because we know we can't guarantee that there are not unsafe situations in kids' lives, that there are not unsafe people in kids' lives. But even in the midst of dangerous situations, even in the midst of heartbreak, even in the midst of situations and circumstances that we would never want for the kids or families in our ministries, we can still know and remember and believe that God is steadfast and that he's trustworthy. So Isaac, Frank, I would love for you guys just to respond to and kind of help us think through, as leaders, how can we remember that we are secure no matter what our circumstances are? Because we don't know what everyone's walking through, but through the midst of that, we can rest in the security of who God is and our trust in him. So how can we just remember in just tangible ways that we're secure in God despite our circumstances?
Wow, that's a really good question, because when you're in the midst of those circumstances, I feel like those are sometimes the hardest times to hand over that carabiner clip and say, you know what? It's not my strength, God, it's yours. It's not my trustworthiness that I'm going to rely on, it's yours. It's not my plan, but it's yours. And that can That can be so difficult in myself, but it can also be so difficult to remind someone of that. So I think one of the ways when I'm trying to walk through someone who is going through those difficult circumstances, who is having those moments where they feel like trusting God is just really difficult, I think it's great to first off remember what he has already done for us in so many ways, what he has provided, how he has shown his love for us. And even like when we look at the Israelites, they could look back and they could say, hey, he's gotten us out of Egypt. He's taking care of us this far. We can trust him with this next step. And being able to remind our friends, remind our family, remind even the volunteers in our groups that, hey, God has been with us in the past and we can trust that he will be with us in the future, I think is a great reminder in every moment. Is that easy to remember? Absolutely not. But it is a great reminder that we can have going forward.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's really great. Like just what you said, Isaac, of that remembering what God has done for you, even when good things happen, that God is still unchanging, that he is still that same God, and that he still wants to walk you through those things. You can trust in that. I love that. I also think that a lot of times when we are in these moments where we are going through a lot of pain, it's hard to try to get our mind out of those things and we get stuck in our own mindsets. But it's really great to just to find community, right? To find community in those moments and finding people that are around you, right? The people that are Israelites were able to not just see the things that were just happening with them, but they were also in the community of other believers who were also helping them through those things and seeing that. And be able to walk through those things and being able to find that is such a great way to help whenever you're not feeling you're secure and that trustworthy, and seeing that story of someone else.
Yeah, those are both great answers. To add to that, I would say, for me, like when I find myself in those moments or I'm walking through something challenging, I often don't always do it perfectly, but I try to stop and say, what is true about God? And go to scripture and find nuggets and find promises and look deeply and say, what is true? Because it is so easy as humans to keep our minds fixed on our circumstance. And when we get in this loop of just struggle, that we can get so fixated on what is happening around us that we forget to look up. We forget to look to the God who made us and to quite literally fix our minds on something different. And to remember what is true about who God is. And the bigger God gets in our view, the smaller our circumstances seem. For the Israelites and Moses, potentially, that Red Sea looked really, really, really big, right? As they see the as they see the Egyptian army coming towards them. And they see no way out, right? And then Moses obeys God. God parts the Red Sea. It takes all night long. He parts the Red Sea. And they walk through. And at some point, I could imagine in the middle being like, do I still trust the Lord? And also, I can think of, man, this circumstance looks so different on this side of it or in the middle of it, because I'm not just looking at the Egyptian army, I'm seeing the Lord's deliverance. And so I think being able to just root yourself in who God is, remind yourself of his character, of his heart, of his love for you, just helps our circumstances sometimes look a little bit smaller, and helps us remember that it's not in our own strength. It's not in our own power, but it is in the Lord, and we rest in him and his security. So listeners, we hope that this time has been fruitful and encouraging for you. We are looking forward for this week and how the Lord is going to be working in the lives of your kids and your preschoolers, and using this session to really help them anchor their hearts and minds to know that God is trustworthy, no matter what else is going on in our lives, no matter what we're experiencing in the moment, that we can always, always, always come back to the truth and know that He is trustworthy and we are secure in Him. Know that we are praying for you. We are excited about how the Lord is working in and through your ministries. And until next time, we'll talk to you later. Bye.